Hi, good morning, good afternoon, or good evening. Welcome to Crime Busters 101. I post solved and unsolved crime-related topic on a weekly basis and also true crime and murder documentaries, so if that's something that might interest you, please subscribe and hit that notification button. Every case is unique and will have you on the edge of your seat, so enjoy the videos and remember viewer discretion is advised on all my videos, and if you are commenting, please be kind. Thank you, stay safe. This is the case of serial killer Pedro Alonso Lopez. Pedro Alonso Lopez, aka the Monster of the Andes, is a prolific Colombian pedophilic and ephemophilic and serial killer, serial rapist, stalker, and abductor believed to have murdered over 300 young girls in Colombia, Ecuador, and Peru. He is considered by many to be one of the world's most prolific serial killers and rapists. To this day, he is presumed to be at large. Name: Pedro Alonso Lopez. Alias: the Monster of the Andes. Gender: male. Birth date: October 8, 1948, age 72, if still alive. Place of birth: Santa Isabel, Colombia. Occupation: car thief. Vagrant. Pathology: serial killer, serial rapist, stalker, pedophile, hebephile, abductor. Signature: 2 distinct signatures, burying 3 or 4 victims in the same shallow grave, playing tea parties with the bodies post-mortem. Modus operandi: stabbing, originally. Strangulation, later. Type: organized lust. No of victims. 110-300 plus killed. 2 attempted abductions. 1 plus other crimes. 1 molested. 0 to 1 attempted. Span of crimes: 1956 to 1979, confirmed. Criminal charges: auto thefts, earlier years. 3 counts of murder, later. Sentence: 7 years, first arrest, an additional 2 years added for murders he committed in prison. 16 years, later arrest. Apprehended: circa 1969, first arrest. Circa 1979, later arrest. Status: unknown, presumed at large. Background: Lopez's mother, Benilda Lopez de Castañeda, was a prostitute. His father, Medardo Reyes, who was married to another woman at the time, was having an affair with Castañeda. Lopez was the 7th of 13 children. Reyes was shot and killed 6 months before Lopez was born when a rebellious mob attacked the grocery store he was in. This attack occurred at the beginning of the Civil War in Colombia known as La Violencia I. Lopez's mother claimed to be loving and caring, but Lopez said that she was cruel and abusive as she raised him. Lopez also claimed that, from a young age, he would watch his mother have sex with clients, and that she would let them hit her on occasion. When he was 8 years old, Castañeda caught Lopez molesting his younger sister, resulting in him being kicked out of the house. Days later, he was found by a pedophile who lured him with the promise of a hot meal and a bed. Instead, the man took him to an abandoned house and repeatedly sodomized him. After the incident, he joined a gang of street children for protection. The gang would often fight others with knives and belts for food and places to sleep in. They would also smoke bazuco, a type of drug derived from cocaine. After spending 4 years surviving on the streets, Lopez was taken in by an American family and became a student in a school for orphans, but he ran away after he was molested by a teacher. Murders, arrest, and release. I like the girls in Ecuador. They are more gentle and trusting, more innocent. Not like the Colombian girls, who don't trust strangers. As a young adult, Lopez began to steal cars and sell them to local chop shops in exchange for sums of money. Lopez was arrested in 1969 for the auto thefts and sentenced to 7 years in prison in Bogota. 2 days into his sentence, he was brutally gang-raped by 3 other inmates, an event that deeply traumatized him. Following this, Lopez made a shift for himself and hunted down his rapists, killing all of them. Some versions claim that he was also raped by a 4th inmate, who escaped his wrath, and also that he strangled the ringleader of the rapist with his bare hands. The killings gained him the grudging respect of the other inmates, who never dared to disturb him again, and were considered acts of self-defense by the local Colombian Justice Department. Because of this, only 2 years were added to his previous sentence. Following his release in 1978, Lopez became a drifter and began abducting, raping, and murdering an average of 3 young girls per week. On one occasion, in Peru, Lopez attempted to abduct a 9-year-old child from an Indian tribe, but he was caught in the act. As a result, Lopez was beaten, tortured, and buried up to his neck by the natives, who planned to pour syrup on his head and let him be eaten alive by ants. However, he was saved when an American missionary intervened and convinced them to let her deliver him to police. The tribe reluctantly agreed, but the unaware missionary instead drove Lopez to the Colombian border, where she set him free. Afterwards, he began traveling through the countries of Colombia and Ecuador, abducting and murdering more girls along the way. Police initially believed that slavery and prostitution rings were abducting the missing children. Following a flash flood near Ambada, Ecuador, in 1979, the bodies of 4 of the missing children were uncovered and found. Days later, Lopez attempted to abduct 12-year-old Maria Poveda from a marketplace, also in Ambada, but failed when her mother caught him in the act with the help of other women. He was almost lynched on the spot. Lopez was rescued by police officers and arrested while proclaiming that he was a good person and that he had a clean heart. While in detention, Lopez was subjected to a standard interrogation until he told the policeman that he was not Ecuadorian, but a Colombian drifter. A police lieutenant then beat him and accused him of being part of a gang abducting girls from Ambata. The officer threatened to kill him if he didn't confess, but Lopez remained silent. In that moment, the officer's superior, Captain Pastor Cordova, entered the room and told all of the policemen to leave, deciding to interrogate the suspect himself with a more friendly approach. He offered Lopez food and cigarettes and asked him about his health and feelings before requesting information about the gang of abductors. Lopez shrugged and said that he knew nothing about that. When the captain told him that he was under great pressure from the families of the missing girls to find whoever abducted them, Lopez told him that he could find one victim in a cabin outside the town. The police went to the cabin and found a nude, dead body lying on an old mattress, who was identified as Ivanova Hakame, a missing girl. After Cordova asked Lopez how many girls he had killed, Lopez looked upwards and said, over 200 in Ecuador, some 10s in Peru, and many more in Colombia. The president was informed and he ordered that Lopez should be taken to the places where he had left the bodies until all of the victims in Ecuador were recovered. Lopez led police to more than 30 shallow graves, but after learning that he was going to be charged for murder, he stopped cooperating and declared his innocence. A total of 53 bodies were recovered in Ambata alone, even though many graves had been emptied by flash floods or scavenging animals before the investigators could find them. Lopez's minimum body count is estimated to be at 110, but some believe that the total number is in the vicinity of 300 or more. Many police officers and reporters have disagreed with the latter estimate, saying that it was still very low because he had stopped cooperating with the investigation. Lopez was convicted of 3 murders in 1980 and sentenced to 16 years in prison, the maximum penalty for murder under Ecuadorian law. He was incarcerated in the Pavilion B section of Quito's Garcia Moreno prison, where he was a model prisoner and met a later Colombian pedophilic serial killer, Daniel Camargo. On August 31, 1994, Lopez was released from prison on good behavior, but an hour later, he was arrested as an illegal immigrant and deported to Colombia. Lopez attempted to stop his deportation, claiming that he had gained Ecuadorian citizenship in 1974, but he could not produce any evidence of this. In Bogota, Lopez protested as he was subjected to a medical evaluation, demanding to be set free even though an angry mob had gathered outside with the intention of lynching him. However, nobody had ever charged Lopez for murder in Colombia. Still reluctant to set him free, the authorities moved Lopez to El Espinal, where he had resided decades earlier with his mother, in hopes that one of his older victims would come forward. A local woman named Alba Sanchez claimed then that in 1979, she had seen Lopez walk away with her daughter Floralba from her home before Floralba's body was found raped and strangled outside town. This MO was identical to Lopez's known murders in Ecuador. Lopez was found guilty after a short trial, but his defense attorney demanded that he should be subjected to a psychiatric evaluation first. He was ruled insane in 1995, and as a result, he was committed to a mental hospital instead of being sent to prison. In 1998, a new evaluation deemed him sane, and he was released on $50 bail and the condition that he should continue receiving psychiatric treatment and reporting himself to police every month. However, he did neither. The news of Lopez's release caused hysteria in Ecuador. It was rumored that he had been seen in the northern part of the country around this time, but this was never confirmed. Lopez was seen next again in El Espinal when he knocked on the door of his own mother, Benilda. The impoverished woman admitted that she thought he was going to kill her because he had blamed her for every pain in his heart in a televised interview years earlier, and she had pleaded in turn for Lopez to never be released. However, Lopez calmly told her to get on her knees because he wanted to give her his blessing. Afterwards, he demanded his inheritance in life, arguing that he had no means to sustain himself. His mother gave him a few bills that she kept in a drawer and an old bed that Lopez took apart to sell for pieces. She never saw him again, and his current whereabouts are unknown. In 2002, the Colombian police launched an Interpol order of arrest against Lopez for a new murder in El Espinal that fit the MO of his early crimes. Different rumors claim that he is living in Tolima Department, Colombia, as a homeless man in Bogota, or even that he was murdered after some relatives of his victims put a bounty on his head. He is presumably still at large, although whether or not he has or will start killing again, or his current whereabouts, are unknown. Modus operandi. Lopez targeted young girls aged between 8 and 12, mostly from poor, rural Amerindian communities. He had no racial preference, and he admitted to having been tempted at times to abduct Caucasian girls, including foreign tourists, but he refrained from doing so because they were more closely watched by their parents. He would stalk the girls for an unknown amount of time and then abduct them. He would bring them to a secluded place, where he would rape them and then strangle them to death. Afterwards, he would bury their bodies in shallow graves, in groups of 3 or 4. Before they decomposed too much, he would return and play tea parties with a group of corpses. Lopez only killed in daytime because he wanted to have a clear view of his victims' faces as they died. When he killed the inmates who raped him, he did so by shanking them. Profile. I lost my innocence at age of 8. So I decided to do the same to as many girls as I could. Lopez was diagnosed as a sociopath with avoidant personality disorder, but not as a true psychopath. Growing up while watching his mother have sex made him assimilate sex with affection, and being thrown out as a result of displaying that affection with his sister made him conclude that affection was something to be punished. His subsequent childhood abuse and deprivations made him assume that destroying childhood innocence was both natural and desirable, and that by killing his victims, chosen because of their perceived innocence more than their looks, he was sparing them from a life of poverty and further abuse. Thank you for watching Crime Busters 101. I post solved and unsolved and crime-related topic on a weekly basis, so if that's something that you are interested in, please subscribe and hit that notification button.